case she comes, sure.
It
Yeah.
is a majority vote.
Okay.
It's the procedural rules you guys follow, right?
Yeah. All right, good evening, everybody. It is 7:10, Wednesday, June 1st, here at the Old Town Hall, in Somerset Ave, for the Zoning Board regular meeting and public hearing. Well, for the first time in 2 years, we can actually stand at the Pledge of Allegiance. It's the first in-person meeting in 2 years. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So this is the first meeting in person in over 2 years, which is unbelievable.
All right. What you look like.
Yeah, exactly. We do have 2 new members, so it's obviously their first meeting in person too. They're not new. One of them, Elise, on the end. This is her first.
Hello. Her
first meeting as an appointed member. Dave has been here for what? You had one other meeting with us, or on Zoom, but yeah. So we are a complete board today, except for Susan Pritchard, who's one of our other members, who may be coming late today. If she can make it, she had a family emergency. So before we go on, we're going to confirm the next meeting date, which that would bring us up to, are we going to keep meeting here from now on, or do we know?
We will be at the old, forgive me, at the primetime building, because
For the next
on
meeting?
our normal scheduled meeting dates, that's when the selectmen meet. And
Right, because we moved this meeting because of me being away.
You were able to, yeah.
So that would put us to the 29th of June, or,
Well, that was, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, no, you're the fourth Wednesday, so it would be the 2nd, the 22nd. So it would be in 2 weeks,
right.
right? Is your typical meeting date.
weeks.
22nd.
We might as well keep that. I mean, it's not too short notice if we get anything new, right, or anything, so we can keep that date.
They have to have a 2-week correspondence, is that right?
So that would be the 22nd, the 22nd.
To do a
is the
public
first.
hearing on any new applications, they would have had their application in already. They
Okay.
don't have any.
Because as far as they were concerned, that was going to be the meeting anyway, so we would have already had anything by then.
Correct.
Okay. So 7 o'clock, prime time?
Yep.
That work for everybody on the 22nd?
Yes.
I may be running late. My daughter has her physical at 5 that afternoon,
She may be running late.
if I'm needed.
If she-
Okay. So if we have any continued business that's not involved, or we can try to do that first, if there's anything that we need her for.
I think everything is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
Do you wanna-
if it's going to be these 3 cases, I think I'm involved in at least 2 of them.
Do you want to start at 7:30, or do you not sure how?
I
late
just
it'd be?
don't know. I have a 5 o'clock appointment in Brockton, and I just would need to, I don't know when that will get concluded. And I'll come down right after that.
I mean, I don't want to push it off again and have a problem finding a meeting space.
No,
But
I don't
but if
mind.
that's all we have to discuss too, I mean,
Let me check one thing.
We could always take a 15-minute recess to kill time if we had to or something.
we could.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly let Carrie know what my status is. I could be on time. I mean, it's
Right.
really just a matter of when does this appointment get done.
Are you looking for another meeting space, or?
That's what I'm doing now, yeah. So the 20th.
I think I'm just thinking out loud with summer coming up and different schedules and vacations and everything. If we don't do it, it's gonna start to back other things up.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
maybe we
The
take a risk.
29th is open too, so that would be the 5th Wednesday.
And that's fine.
That's the following week.
Does that work?
I don't have a problem with that.
Does that work for everybody else then?
29th.
So we don't have to worry about taking a recess or
Which
trying.
day is that?
It's the same day. It's a Wednesday. It'd be the 29th of June.
I don't know if I'll be here yet.
Okay.
I may not be. I can't promise yet.
Okay.
Well, then, if you wanna go with the 22nd, if you're all able to make it, because that's what you're expecting, like I said, I might not be a problem at all.
Okay. All right. So we'll keep it the 22nd then.
The 22nd.
Yep. Okay, so we have 2 items on the agenda today for review, discussing and acting. We're going to skip over the old William Street variance discussion and move that to the end of the end of the public hearing. just in case that voting member comes late, she may make it. We want to try to keep the same members for that case. If it gets to be that point and she's not here, we will hear it tonight, obviously. We're just gonna try to do what we can to accommodate, for her, coming on time. Did she say to you if she was gonna text you or anything, like if she's on her way, or do we know?
She didn't. I
Okay.
can send her a quick text.
If you want, just so we have a rough idea. So that being said, we're going to go to the, review, discuss, and act on our agendas. It's section II. Stonebridge Homes, Stony Ridge regarding the release of the bond. So if the applicant is here and would like to speak, they can.
So I don't think the applicant is here on that. I said that I would be happy to share what I saw happen this afternoon.
Sure.
Are you not hearing me? Okay. Sure. So I know this was on as a request to come before the board ultimately for a request to release the bond, but the applicant, as you may recall, had been on the agenda previously and had withdrawn, and had agreed to work with me a little bit to start some of the review that would be needed for this. So I have had that opportunity to receive from the applicant their initial sense of what they've done and what still needed to be done. I then reviewed that and sent back my summary of what I felt needed to be done or needed to still be confirmed. I also received some information from the building inspector and the highway superintendent, and I know that there needs to be some work done by this board's reviewing engineer as well. Earlier, or late yesterday afternoon, I think, and then this morning, I had some communication with an attorney for the homeowners association. They feel that there's some issues that they don't think have been completed in this development, and they were concerned about the board releasing the bond. I advised the attorney she could send in an email to Carrie, and she did that, and I believe there was a follow-up email from one of the homeowners association members as well that was submitted. I did ask her to be a little more specific on what she thought wasn't completed, and she did provide some of that information. I wasn't able to actually communicate that to the developer, but Mr. Kelly happened to call me anyways to find out, because he hadn't responded now to provide me with some of the information I knew was outstanding, we had
Yep.
discussed as being outstanding. And I shared with him that I would get him that. Unfortunately, I had a power outage in my house this afternoon, so I haven't done that yet. So he was talking about whether it made sense to continue this meeting. And I said if he wanted to, there was no need for him to appear.
Okay.
And he should submit a request, and I would share with the board kind of where this sat. I think in the interim, I will probably be making sure that Mr. Kelly gets the information from the homeowners association. I know he's gonna be working with the building inspector, highway superintendent, our consulting engineer, or the board's consulting engineer, and myself. There's still final pieces that need to be completed here, but we're definitely getting closer to a conclusory point. So, and I think there may still need to be some open discussions with the board about one or two items as part of your process of the request to vote on this. One in particular being the release, or the process for getting town approval of this road as a public way. But I'm not sure that we're ready to do that just yet. So I think it makes sense at the moment to continue this rather than to withdraw and have them refile, because it's not a public hearing, it's just a public meeting.
Okay.
I think it just makes sense to continue it. I believe he might have sent his schedule out, so I think he said he was gonna be out of town, so.
Do we have any kind of formal correspondence from the HOA that have been submitted?
From the
Yeah.
HOA, yep, it's in your packets. There's a whole slew of them in the back.
Margaret, is there anything specific that you think we should hear or address at all tonight regarding the HOA's comments?
No, because I think the first discussion should be with Mr. Kelly and the
Okay.
HOA, and then I'd like to hear what his response is
Okay.
to that. I definitely feel that I now have a better understanding of what the concerns are, and I expect to stay involved in between meetings
Yep.
to try to make sure that that's getting addressed correctly. You know, my prior conversation prior to tonight with Mr. Kelly, I had said, if there's anything that you have seen on any of the to-do lists that you've received, actually for over a year now, because I think the original one is from the consulting engineers back in August of last year,
Okay.
that you're not planning on addressing, please let me know. I mean, that's important for me to know. I don't want to hear about that at a board meeting.
Right, yeah.
He had said to me he plans to address everything, so, I don't mind continuing to work with him on that.
Okay.
It didn't make sense for you all to hear all of those specific details, unless you want to. If you want to, I'm sure you can come in the next time and provide that to you.
If you are confident that your correspondence will be enough for us to make any kind of decisions, I'm fine with that. Jim, do you have anything regarding this tonight you had to say?
No, I
Anything?
concur. There are a few outstanding items, but again, I have no direct contact today with Ellen Kelly, so we'll just wait until that.
Okay.
He has been responsive in some of the concerns that have been addressed in the past,
Oh, right.
so
You're not worried that there'll be an issue or anything? Do any of the board members have any questions or anything that they feel like they need to hear tonight from Marguerite regarding this?
Not at this time.
No? John?
No, when this does come up for review or any vote, Mr. Chair, because I live there and I am one of the trustees, I will recuse myself
Okay.
from any vote, and I will make my comments at that time when it comes to public input.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate you confirming that. I would actually suggest you may want to consider not even getting involved in tonight's vote to continue. I think there's enough other members, Jonathan, but that's up to you.
I'm sorry?
Not get involved in tonight's vote to continue either.
No, I'm not going to.
Okay.
So when you assign members to that one, just
It won't be me.
correct.
The last thing I'll say is that as part of the process that the board has followed in the past, when they've gotten to the end of 40Bs, developments with a developer, they've usually received a letter from me confirming that I considered all of the conditions to be complied with, that I had authority over reviewing, the engineer that did the same thing, and I believe the building inspector too. So none of us are at the point of being able to provide that to the board, but to me, that information would be something you should want before you take a final vote on releasing the bond.
You feel like things are at least trending in that direction?
Yes,
More? Okay,
absolutely.
good, okay.
Yep, we're not going backwards. We still have and I don't wanna say there's a long way to go, but there's still some final items that need to be done.
Okay. All right, so that being said, so we do need to have 3 members to vote to continue that public hearing. So John, as the clerk, you can assign 3?
Sure, I will ask,
Can I just, I'm sorry.
No, of course.
So in his email, Mr. Kelly is not available from June 19th to the June 26th,
Okay.
because he's gonna be away, so I think
Okay.
we'll just take it to the July meeting.
And do we feel like we need him here for that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would suggest that the July meeting would make sense whenever you
Okay.
have that. I'm just worried you're gonna tell me that that's the week I'm out of town in July.
Hold on, I got it too.
But I think that, you know, between now and July, there should be a lot of work done on
Yeah.
some of the open items.
we might need that time anyway.
Okay, so, I saw you cross that out on the agenda,
That's
so.
still
So
staying open.
the meeting's gonna stay the same, just this case would not be continued to that meeting for that reason, right?
Yep.
So what would be the meeting date for that case, just so we can know what to continue it
So
to?
that would be July 27th, but Attorney Mitchell is not gonna be here.
No, I'm on, yeah, that's
She'll
our
be on vacation,
annual.
yeah.
Okay, week before, or the week
Do
after?
the 20th, either one. You could do it, either one.
So I will not be able to do the 20th, I have planning board.
Okay,
Actually, no, I'm sorry. July, we're on summer schedule, so no, I'm good. Never mind, scratch that.
and meeting space, I mean, yeah, and can that be determined tonight?
Forgive me, I'm sorry. I do have a planning board meeting, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm sorry. The other option could be, I mean, it's the week of the 4th of July, I don't know how that looks, but typically the planning board meets on the 6th, but they're not.
So it's after the 4th?
Yeah,
Oh, I
it's
mean-
the week of the 4th of
That's not
July,
gonna
so
work either for me.
that's not gonna work for her, so never mind.
13th.
Okay,
The 13th works.
Works for me.
13th.
July 13th.
Okay.
Let me just check the, how many calendars? Let me just check the meeting calendar.
That's here or over there?
We're gonna find out right now.
So we're looking at the 13th, right?
Yep.
So it looks like we can have it at prime time.
I was gonna say, if we have to meet on Zoom one more time.
Yeah.
All right, so, now we know that, you wanna assign 3 voting members to that?
To request this is for continuance purposes only. I
Yeah.
will recommend Greg, Elise, and David.
Okay, so do I hear a motion, to continue the public hearing for Stonebridge Homes release of the bond to our July 13th meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we continue, I'm sorry, I was doing something else, continue the Stone Ridge Homes meeting for the release of the bond until July 13th at 7 PM in prime time.
In a second?
I second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so that's all set, and while we're doing that, we did have our other member arrived for, who was a voting member on the item that was going to be the first, item agenda. So we will go backwards a little bit to go to that case first. So we have, review, discuss, and act, Kim and Kenneth Barabee, 1624 Old William Street, map 21, lot 3201. And this is case 0122, reconsider and/or deliberate on variance application. So this was something that we had before us that we approved on, that during Marguerite's writing of the decision, came to a conclusion that the reasons for us approving were not considered a hardship legally. So we have her here to give us some detail on that one.
It wasn't a hardship, I don't believe. I don't think that's.
I think we'll let Attorney Marguerite.
Yeah,
kinda-
it was a little different. It was more of, the applicant came in and stated that he was looking for relief of frontage with water running by the street. What we would determine after the fact is the applicant did not have water running by the actual property. It stopped prior. So he still needed to be at the 250, and the other property should have been the 250. At the time when we voted, we believed there was water running by the street, so the water moratorium would have put it at the 175 to 175, and that's where we were. We did give him the 250, so I don't think the applicant did this intentionally, but I think it was more, I know personally, I took it the wrong way with the understanding that there was water running by the road. So that's where the decision, I believe that Marguerite at that point said, whoa, there's something missed here, something don't look right, and that's when we got this motion in front of us now.
Okay, so just before we go on, so just everyone just can clarify, this is not, we're gonna have the same 3 voting members on this case.
Sure.
It's being, so it was Sue, and who else?
I wasn't the voting member on that. This was our last meeting?
Yeah, I want to say it's you, me, and.
David,
Oh, it was
yes,
David.
it was.
I did take it out of order.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What 3?
I have Zachary, Karen, Gregory
knew I
Logan,
was.
and David Phillips.
Okay, so you weren't. Okay, I apologize.
I thought it was me, you, and Susan, okay.
Okay, so it's Zach. Greg. And Dave.
Okay, so Marguerite, if you wanna, speak on the background that you found, during this.
Sure, so this is, I think what's before the board right now is a procedural motion, because the board took a vote to approve a variance last time, and I received the request to write the decision, and the reasons that I was told that were given related to the fact that there was hardship found as a result of the current water moratorium in place. I then, reached out to just ask if there was there appeared to be some reasons for the decision that hadn't been provided to me, but I think that was just mischecked on the application form. But in the course of doing that, Carrie shared with me that the Dayton Water District, or maybe it was at the time the building inspector, had indicated that the property actually didn't have town water in front of it. And then the Dayton Water District confirmed with an email that they sent to the board advising that the public water line actually stops shortly before where this property is on Old William Street. So in light of that, procedurally, if the board's motion or vote was based on inaccurate information, as long as it's the next meeting of the board, one of the procedural options would be to reconsider your vote, which would then reopen the matter, and you could then ask the applicant to provide additional reasons that they may feel exist for them to get a variance if they're still planning to go forward with the application.
Right.
But at least this way it would be based on accurate information. So given the fact that the information appeared to be inaccurate, I wanted to at least provide the board with the opportunity procedurally to take up a vote to reconsider. And the way that happens under Robert's Rules of Order is that you need to have somebody who is in the majority of the affirmative vote, in this case it was unanimous, makes the motion, and then it's seconded by someone in the majority, and then the vote needs to be approved by a majority vote, not a unanimous vote. And so then if that happens, then you can take into the record the Dayton Water District letter, and I believe there's also a request to continue any further deliberation on this matter by the applicant, so.
So this won't require them to pay to come back before us or anything, correct?
So the question was whether or not, I think somebody did ask, it might have been Carrie or Greg, had asked me a question about whether or not a new public hearing notice needed to be issued.
Right.
I suggested that as long as any abutters who had provided any, who had had any involvement in this matter or had reached out to the board were notified by email, and I believe you may have even notified all of the abutters.
I sent out a letter about the reconsideration.
Okay.
Yes, I
And
sent
Greg
it.
just said that you remember, I remember
There was
one person
one.
being
There's
there.
one from the
Yeah.
HOA member, right?
But did you send it to all abutters, Carrie?
I did.
So she sent out a letter to all abutters, and that way at least they are receiving notice. And so I feel that it's not necessary to renotice through publication a public hearing.
Okay, but we don't need a new application from him either, right?
No, because
Okay.
the original application exists, he can amend it, he can supplement the record now with
Okay.
different information. But as long as the plan hasn't changed, if the plan's going to change, then that's where you would probably have a discussion about whether you wanted to withdraw without prejudice and refile, and how would you go about that process with him. But if he's maintaining his original request based on the same plan, then he just needs to provide you with reasons that fall within the statutory requirements that are based on accurate information. And this just wasn't. Again, I did not find there to be any fault either. I think there was just a misunderstanding.
Okay, and Carrie, you didn't receive any kind of insinuation on his part to present new plans or anything, right? His plans stay the same?
Not at this time. There is a letter from his attorney. If you'd like, I can read it into record.
Sure, if you can, please.
Well, before you do any of that, I
Yeah.
think you have to take the reconsideration
Right,
vote,
take
because
before
that
you
procedurally, this doesn't even come back on the table unless the board decides to reconsider.
You could read into the
Yep.
water department.
So it doesn't need new voting members, we already have the same three.
Right,
So that being said, do I hear a motion to reconsider and redeliberate on the Kim and Kenneth Barabee, 1624 Old William Street, case 0122?
Mr. Chairman, should we read the letter of the water department into the record before we do that?
No,
or after?
After we need to, if this is denied, then we
Okay.
can't add in new information.
So, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we reconsider the vote on 624 Old William Street.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. Okay.
It's gotta be unanimous though, right? All-
No,
Ma-
majority.
Majority.
Okay.
But, okay, so now we can now legally hear any kind of new information, so if you wanna go
Yeah,
ahead and read
so,
that in.
Mr. Chairman, I believe we should read the letter from the water department into the record on this case.
We have a member from the attorney that Carrie has, too. So do you wanna read that one in first?
So should they do the
I would do the water department,
to the water?
just
Yeah.
so it's in the record, and then you can read the attorney's letter.
Okay, so, just if you, Carrie, do you have that letter?
I do.
Why do you read it in for us?
Sure, so there was an email to me from Tina Braga of the old, of the Dayton Water District, dated Tuesday, May 17th, 2022, 3:37 p.m. Good afternoon, Carrie. This is to confirm that Old Williams Estates located on Old William Street, Dayton, Mass. Does not have access to town water. The water line comes off William Street onto Old Williams, then ending at Cortlandt Road. Please let me know if you have any further questions. Enjoy your day. Tina Braga, Clerk Treasurer of the Dayton Water District.
And then the other correspondence we have is the letter from the attorney for the applicant. So Carrie, if you want to read that one in too.
Sure, so a letter from Attorney Thomas Killeran of Killeran and Killeran of Fall River, Massachusetts, dated June 1st, 2022. Says to the Town of Dayton Zoning Board of Appeals, please be advised that I represent the applicants, Kim Barabee and Kenneth Barabee. It is my understanding that the Zoning Board of Appeals did previously act on this application. However, the board will be taking a vote to reconsider the board's prior action at the ZBA hearing that is scheduled for tonight, June 1st, 2022. Please be advised that I've been in touch with Attorney Mitchell and have advised that I will be representing the applicants. We are asking that the board not take any substantive, action with regard to this application, and that the same be scheduled for hearing at the board's next scheduled hearing date. Attorney Mitchell did advise that the board would have to take action tonight on its motion for reconsideration, which I understand. However, we are asking that no substantive action be taken with regard to the application. Accordingly, my clients and I do not intend to appear tonight, and I would ask that you accept this letter as our request to continue any substantive deliberations on this matter until the next hearing date. Thank you for your anticipated courtesy and cooperation. I remain very truly yours, Attorney Thomas P. Killeran.
Marguerite, do you feel any need to respond to that, or?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward that he's just asking for you to continue the matter.
Okay, so that being, is there any discussion that the board, or any, I should say, any kind of questions or clarification the board has regarding this case?
Well, I don't think we can actually talk much about this right now because it's being gonna be continued. Am I correct on this until the attorney?
Yeah, that's why I just didn't know if you had any more questions
I'm
to
okay with it.
for clarification, not so much for discussion.
No, that's it for me.
I would just like to know, for clarification of continuance purposes, how long this can be continued for without any correspondence or continuing responses from the applicant or their attorney.
Well, first, I think that there has been correspondence from the attorney, so I think that asking for an additional date at their request, if their extension has expired, then we'll need to get a new one, but I believe it's still, when does it expire?
Tomorrow.
Oh, it expires tomorrow? Okay.
And the letter from the email that was just read into the record was dated today.
That's dated today.
So
Okay,
it's
so I was
it's
not
recent.
aware their extension had expired, but, it's at their request, so, at this stage, I mean, obviously, we can't reach Attorney Killeran, but I think that Carrie could easily follow up and get them to sign off on a new extension.
Do they know when the next meeting is? Like, I mean, they said to the next meeting, are they thinking that are they expecting it to be the 22nd?
I heard that that was on your website, so,
Yeah.
Okay, I just wouldn't want us to,
Because we're still keeping that date too as well.
right, all we
Yeah.
just did was change the day we heard that last case.
The
But the
other-
meeting is
that
saying,
other case.
right,
Correct. So, yes, as soon as the board made the action tonight, I was gonna email him tomorrow morning to let him know what the board.
excellent, okay. So, that being said, now that we've reopened it, we do need
further
a
extension.
motion to continue this to our next meeting. That's going to be the, June 22nd meeting. So do I hear a motion to continue the case 0122 for 1624 Old William Street?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we continue the case for 1624 Old William Street to the next meeting of June 22nd at 7 PM at the old Primetime Building.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. So now we will move on to the item agenda B, public hearing, modification of comprehensive permit Stonegate Landing LLC, westerly side of Somerset Ave, Route 128. Sorry, thank you, 138. So if the applicant, who is obviously here, was ready to take the meeting to get discussed, they can, whenever they're ready.
Good evening. Paul Custom, Dolphic Associates. How is everybody today?
Very good, how are you? Been a while.
How are you, Mr. Gale? Haven't seen you for a while. You too. I'm here to bring the board up to date on what's happening at Stonegate Landing. As you know, Richard Fedorov is a developer, and the development was approved as two separate parcels. Parcel A, which eventually got modified to have 39 single-family homes, and parcel B has 19 single-family homes, of which 6 are affordable. And what we're attempting to do is to have the board agree to allow Able Landing LLC to develop parcel B and be totally separately divorced from parcel A. They have no financial involvement, they have no involvement in any way, shape, or form as it relates to any obligations that are required under the comprehensive permit as it relates to parcel A. We have solicited approval from Mass Housing for a transfer of the permit. And they have approved the transfer of the permit from to Able Landing LLC for the remainder of the comprehensive permit. So I have submitted a letter dated April 27th to the board outlining what I thought should be the changes in the permit that would allow to happen what I just discussed. I have discussed it a little bit with Attorney Mitchell, and she's suggested possibly some changes to my language. And Matt Dacey has been approved. Does the board have a copy of that approval from Mass Housing?
Copy of which approval? The Mass Housing approval?
The Mass Housing approval, yeah. I have a few extra copies. Do you have one, Marguerite?
I have one somewhere, but I'm just
All right.
trying to see if it's in this packet that went to the board. I'll take it. Thank you.
So we submitted information to Mass Housing, which is required under the regulations. And typically, they would approve it. Matt Dacey is a Matt Dacey is a very experienced builder, been my client for, I don't know, 18, 19, 20 years, and has done a number of 40B developments. As recently, the town of Duxbury submitted a request for proposal for builders to respond to a proposal to build affordable housing, and he was selected by the town of Duxbury. He probably has built, and he was going to try and be here tonight. He still may be coming. I got lost on where we were meeting. I thought we were meeting at the old town hall, so I thought we were meeting at the school, so I showed up in time. But so he has extensive experience in 40B, understands the program, understands dealing with town boards and that sort of thing. So with that, I just maybe open up to any questions, and I have with me some of the development team, if you have any questions of them, but Matt would be the general manager.
Before we do that, Marguerite, do you want to speak on anything, your discussions regarding this?
You know, before we do that, let me bring up an issue which I think you're going to raise anyhow, and that's taxes.
Okay.
Okay, so what's happened is that typically, when you come before a board, before they take any action, they want those taxes to be brought up to date and paid. Not unusual. And Lorraine Russo, who's the attorney for the applicant, sent a letter to the assessor's office and to the tax collector's office for the amount of money that was owed on what's called parcels, lot number 7. And there is a lot of confusion when you look at the assessor's lots and the acreage. So she got a response that said that lot 7, I think, was owed, I don't know, several $1,000s, and she paid it in full. And it's only recently that there's some confusion about the total acreage and the taxes. So we have pledged to meet with the appropriate people, tax collector and assessors, to figure it out, because there's on the 19 lots, there's a certain amount of acreage. And lot number 7, and lot number 7 was included in 19 lots or wasn't included, so there's some confusion. So the bill is either gonna be $8,000 or $30,000. So depending upon what is worked out with this. So we're pledged to work that out, and appreciate the board hearing us, subject to taxes being resolved.
All right, Marguerite, so I assume that was something that you are aware of,
Mr.
correct?
Chairman, can I say something? I've been on the board for 12 years, Paul, and you know we don't hear anything unless the taxes are paid.
Unless what?
We don't hear a case unless the taxes are paid.
Taxes have been paid.
Not paid, Paul.
I understand, I'm just
So
asking
I'm
to
just
be
saying
heard.
that I just.
But they have been, that's the issue, they have been paid.
Some of
As
them.
of December 31st,
You
we
wouldn't have brought it
received.
up if they've been paid, Paul. They're not
sorry?
paid.
No, I brought it up because only,
But I'm stating, you're saying they have been paid. You got a little loud, and I'm gonna tell you straight out. I'm not hearing this case unless the taxes are paid. That's been our way of doing it from the beginning since I've been here for 12 years. It's I'm not saying it's a situation that's fallen on a Dayton or on you guys. But however, I'm not gonna hear the case myself.
I would appreciate you reconsider, let me just finish, please, that through no fault of the applicant, the issue of taxes are up in the air only because there was some confusion by the town and the attorney for the applicant received an email saying that yes, they owe $8,000, and that was paid. That was paid in December, so brought all the taxes up to speed. So it's only because of this recent confusion. So I would appreciate it if, and I'm not asking the board to take any action tonight. I understand that until those taxes are paid. So I would appreciate the board continue hearing what we have to say. And I understand you, that's always been, that's why I raised it, Greg, myself. It's always, I know it's always been the position.
And I'm not comfortable setting precedents for future things of this matter. That's my case. That's why I feel the way I feel. Nothing against the applicants. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, but if the fault is partially with the town, so
I
why penalize the developer?
Marguerite, so do you have any knowledge of this, and are you able to provide any kind of insight?
So I was made aware of the tax issue about a week and a half ago to 2 weeks ago, I think, is when we found out about it. And I think it actually first was brought to my attention from an email I saw that Heidi sent to somebody.
Yes.
From your group,
Office.
Paul. And I think it had the amounts on it. I did have some quick correspondence with Paul today, and I shared basically the same thing that I just heard from Greg, which is that I expected the board would open the case tonight, but whether the first order of business would be for the board to decide how they wanted to proceed with the taxes. I suggested that, you know, at a minimum, Paul should at least present an agreement that the town had signed on to about how they were proceeding. I don't know, Paul, you said you're committed, I think, you're pledging to meet with them, but have you set a date? Have they responded to you? I saw your email that you sent.
Yeah, there's been discussions today,
Yeah.
and this is all relatively new, so there has been discussions today, and they're trying to set up a meeting for the beginning of the week with getting all the people together to
Okay.
resolve it.
So I mean, at this stage, I don't have any reason to doubt that they probably will get this resolved, but, I do know the position of the board, and you have the right to take that position. I can't advise you not to take that position, so.
So
I think
have-
in the past, it's actually been this development that I've sat in on meetings for, where you've had an issue with taxes not being paid, or they've shown up with money in hand that night before taxes were paid, so. I think the only time this board has ever actually taken action without taxes being paid was when there was a signed agreement by the tax collector and the developer as to when money would be coming in, and it was on a rolling basis. But that was after the meeting had happened, and that was with the tax collector, I think it was the tax collector's.
But didn't she already have a
Approval.
letter sent in, we read into the
Yes,
record?
that's
Yeah,
what she's
in this
saying.
case, we don't have that.
So, just, I guess to Carrie and to Marguerite, have you seen any correspondence regarding the confusion about this parcel, this lot 7 they're talking about?
Well, I'm not sure if it's lot 7, but I do have an email that.
It's, I think it's 0009-0007 or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But there's an email from Rebecca Mello of the Treasurer Collector's Office to Lorraine. Kind of
There's been,
somewhat explaining it
going back a few weeks, there's been a bit, but you,
on June 1st.
June 1st, regarding that specifically?
I don't know if you want me to read it, I don't,
If you don't mind, yeah, you know, obviously not all the correspondence, but regarding this, my question is regarding that, because that seems to be what the developer is
right.
raising, so I think I just would be curious to see what that discussion was regarding that specific part. I mean, if it's, you know, a bunch of discussion, no, but if it's regarding that specific parcel, I'm curious to see what's been said.
It doesn't reference a specific, it just a specific parcel, it's referencing the entire
That's
subdivision.
that's why I asked, because when I was looking through, I couldn't, I mean,
So, you know what-
I'm not saying anyone is
No,
giving
let
false
me,
information.
The taxes on parcel A is, we'll refer to the 39, there's no issues there, that's all been paid.
Correct, right.
So we're talking about parcel B only.
So I hadn't actually seen this response from Rebecca Mello, until just now, but as I read it, and I'm reading the prior communication, which I had seen.
Yep.
It almost looks like that some of the reason this confusion arose was because there had been some, as you know, there had been some transfers of ownership that the board discussed with the current developer. And by doing that, these lots were sort of created on an individual basis, so it could be I don't know, but it could be a factor of that there was some transfers that had happened that the developer had had then undone, with the board's request. And that some of that may have been caught up with when the request came in for what was owed on properties.
Yeah, but there were no,
Yeah, I really don't know, and this is where you'll need to sit down with the tax collector, but she did answer Attorney Rossi's questions about how she mentions that there had been a transfer of ownership in the amount of $10 made, that listed each individual lot separately. There was a deeds that she attached for that. The history summaries are dated May 24th, 2022, which is after the December request date, or November request date that you referenced, Paul. And then she made note of the fact that more taxes will be due on July 1st, because you'll be in FY '23, but
Right.
obviously that's upcoming, so.
let me explain the transfer. What happened when we came to the board months ago, almost maybe a year ago, there was an issue where Richard Fedoroff had transferred some lots to other people.
You got in trouble for it.
Right, and the board said, that's in violation of the comprehensive permit. Richard Fedoroff is supposed to be the only builder, developer, et cetera, et cetera. So, so there were, I'm not sure, I think there were 4 lots that transfer had happened for a number of reasons. And so we told Richard, the only way to get this back is that you gotta transfer them back. So he transferred those 2 lots by one owner and 2 financier, and 2 by another. So it came back into Stonegate Landing, so everything was okay. In addition, he also transferred parcel B was it directly to you? Yes. To Jay Bullens and others, and that was quite a while ago that had happened. And I said to Richard, I said, "Whoa," I said, "I'm not going back to the ZBA," and you know, so they transferred the ownership back to Stonegate Landing where it should be. And when they did that, there are 19 lots in Phase B that in the deed, it makes reference to lot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so forth, up to those 19, which adds to all the confusion, okay, about the taxes. Part of it being this lot 7, because there are, on parcel B, there are 19 lots. In addition to 19 lots, there's parcel 8, which is mostly wetland, which is about 10 or 11 acres. And there's another parcel, which is where the confusion is, on 7, which I'm not sure, the acreage that's on there is incorrect, but that's one of the things we have to get resolved. So that acreage is separate. So there are 19 house lots, plus these 2 bigger lots that right now there's nothing approved on it. So that added to the confusion, transferring it back, and that was done for $10, just for consideration. So that's what the email that Marguerite is referring to.
I wasn't aware there had been a transfer of parcel B until you just said that, so.
Right, I was aware of it,
yeah,
and I
no,
said, I'm
that
not going
makes
back to
sense.
the ZBA till you fix it.
Yeah, no,
I didn't want to come
understand
back to the ZBA and all of a sudden you say, oh, you got those 4 lots, and then you find out parcel B was transferred, and you go, oh, geez, you know, so.
No, that makes sense. I understand how this came about now.
So
Thank you for explaining.
that's why the confusion. So the only thing and I understand this is going to be continued, or however you want to proceed, regarding the actual approval, but there again, what we're trying to do is separate parcel A, Richard Federoff, and all the things that have to be done. There's a list that Marguerite, I wouldn't call it a list, but some concerns that the DPW has
Yes.
regarding things that have to be done in phase, and on parcel A. The binder course was done, I don't know how many
Well,
years.
we've had people from the association complain about the entry here. We've had people.
Well, it's supposed to be one way.
Right, and then we've also had the situation, now you're gonna have heavy equipment going over an existing road. How are we gonna bond all that? There's a lot involved that would.
I understand,
our board has.
and we've talked about the bonding and that sort of thing, and what should have happened, you know, and it didn't, okay, when the bonding should have been put in place 20 years ago, but it never was. So on parcel B, the applicant is willing to agree to bonding. And the way the bond would work is that he's gonna go ahead and put in the infrastructure, you know, the sewer, the water, put in all the appropriate gravel, bring in the base coat of asphalt, and then the balance that has to be unfinished, typically, would be bonded. So they are willing to do that.
On A as well?
No, A is Richard Federoff. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. They have no involvement whatsoever in
But this whole project does have Richard Federoff all over his fault right now.
on parcel A. There's nothing been done on parcel B. There's no work has been done on parcel B.
So, I mean, I know the board may or may not choose to really deliberate this tonight, but I had shared with Paul when he first brought this modification request before me that I feel this request needs to involve both parcel A and parcel B.
We're okay with
And I
that.
understand the gentlemen behind you right now are involved with parcel B, and so they're the ones that we would ask to commit to whatever the discussions around parcel B are. But Paul, I'm assuming you're representing both the current developer and,
I guess so.
because if you're not, then we need to have him in
Oh,
front of us too.
I am.
It-
And and you and I had this discussion, and I know the board's gonna issue a decision. This has gotta be done on parcel A, and this is the way we want it done, and so forth and so on. That's gonna be part of the decision, but it's separate from the approval of, you know, of the transfer of, which has already been approved by Mass Housing, but to continue with parcel B with other players.
Right,
So
there'll
I
be
understand
two-
the
there'll
decision
be-
is gonna,
There'll be pieces of both in the final decision.
And
If
that's
the board
fine.
were to approve it, it will involve provisions relating to parcel A to make sure that parcel A is completed to the town's requirements and that you are able to get your assurances of final approval done. And, before Mr. Fedorov, you know, is gone for many, many years. I mean, we can't wait until parcel B is constructed because we need to take care of some of that with parcel A. And if we have to reach out further to Mass Housing on that, we certainly can. But it'll also involve the piece around parcel B being a separate entity, and how is that done? Because that's the request that's before us. So I think, I think it's feasible to create a decision with that type of structure, but it's going to need to involve both, so.
we're okay with,
I
we're
think the
okay with
board's
that, as
gonna,
long
you
as,
know, yeah.
So just before we go on with any, I know we have some questions, so this is a public hearing, we don't need voting members for this yet, correct?
You should assign
should.
voting members, and I think it might make sense to at least acknowledge what letters you have received into the
Okay,
record.
that's what I was gonna ask next, okay.
And then you need to decide if you wanna proceed further tonight, or if you want to continue this to another night. There is enough information presented in the record that I don't think the developer can't have things to do in the interim. I mean, I think you've got some information presented from the highway superintendent already. I know you're taking some action on the taxes, that
right, as far as
be
the,
some work still done in the
So
interim.
before we go on, so, John, can you just, for the point of order, can you just assign 3 voting members, just so we know?
Sure, and because of the complexity of it, and because we have several new members who are not familiar with the process here, I'm gonna go back to old school members.
Yep.
And assign myself, Zach, and Greg.
Okay. Okay, all set, good.
old school, huh?
We go back.
Go ahead.
Are we opening the public hearing, or are we still consider, I'm not sure.
I think you at least need to open it so that you can continue it.
Okay,
And then, whether or not you continue it, you open it, at least acknowledge what letters have come into the record.
so regardless of any discussion, at least,
And
at least
then-
open it, continue it, read into the record what we have, and then decide from there.
If you wanna continue or you wanna hear further.
Okay.
Anything you wanna say?
Okay, so that being said, we have the 3 voting members. Do I hear a motion to open the public hearing for this, the modification and comprehensive permit, Stonegate Landing LLC, westerly side of Somerset Ave, Route 138?
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion that we open for the purpose of discussion, conversation regarding, I can't remember everything you just
Well,
read.
just for procedural opening up, just so we
Yes.
can continue it and read into the record with the
Correct.
information we have.
Yes, I do. I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
It's a motion to open the public hearing. You have to you have to at least open it,
I'll make a motion to open it.
okay?
Oh, John, I think John just made a
So
motion.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so now, Carrie, so should we read in the, Tom Ferry's letter just as a point of order, to get that into the record at least?
So there's Tom Ferry, and there's also the sewer department. And it should be the very back, I think I put them on the very back.
So we'll read it in.
Carrie, could you forward those to us, please?
I have them right
We'll read both in and then decide what discussions, if any, we want to have, but we just do want them read in for the record so that they can be in there, formally. So, we have first, from the Town of Dayton, Massachusetts, Office of, Board of Sewer Commissions. It's dated May 31st, 2022, to ZBA, from Dayton Sewer Commissions. regarding Stonegate Landing LLC notice of project change. The sewer commissioners have concerns regarding the transfer of Phase B from Stonegate Landing LLC to Able Landing LLC. Phase A is considered private, as will be Phase B. Until the town of Dayton accepts the entire project, the pump station belongs to Stonegate Landing LLC. And he lists here 4 questions. 1. Who will be responsible for the care and the operation of this pump station until the entire project is completed and accepted by the town? 2. What are the intentions of Able Landing LLC to remain private or become public? 3. Is there an HOA that will pay the cost to operate the pump station? 4. Does Mr. Fedorov plan to take responsibility of the station once Phase 1 is completed? Carrie, it was just that one page, right, from them? Okay. Going on, we have the other record here with Town of Dayton Highway Department. This is dated June 1st, 2022. To whom it may concern, this is from Thomas Ferry, Superintendent of Streets, regarding Stonegate Landing, current conditions, and possible change. With the upcoming proposals for Stonegate Landing to be considered for separating or creating a Phase A and Phase B. Now may be a good time to consider some problems that may be arising, and I wouldn't want to take anyone by surprise as we move forward. As we are all aware, this project has recently shown some good momentum towards getting some things done and moving in a good direction. However, we also know it's been a very long time since the project has been under construction. With that said, and also knowing that the intent of the project is to have this roadway considered to become a public way, this is why I need to share some concerns, and now may be a good time to address them. So here is my list, not exhaustive and not in any particular order. So the first bullet he has here, first, the entrance off Route 138, I believe, was to be a one-way. This has been observed too of having traffic entering Route 138 from the development. There's ample signage to prevent this. We may need to consider this to be widened to accommodate two-way traffic or other appropriate alternatives. Second bullet. Has a curb cut been acquired from the Mass DOT? If not, this should happen and also actually cut the curb so not to impede the traffic trying to exit the highway. 3. The current condition of the binder in the first phase, binder is not designed to be left for a long period of time as a roadway surface. It is coarse and allows water to enter underneath the foundation of the roadway. It is very evident that this has happened. As you drive through the development, you can see a lot of alligator cracking, which allows further water to enter under the surface and further deteriorates the roadway foundation. Bullet 4. 939 Stonegate Landing is a residence off of the entrance of Route 138. This may be one of the vehicles that I see going the wrong way on the one-way. Not sure how to resolve this, except to consider having two-way traffic in place of the one-way. The next bullet, any bonds, question mark? If we still have any bonds from the conception of the project, they may be out of date or not in tune with current material costs. The next bullet also question, any sidewalks and street trees? I bring these up together because this involves everyone's front yards. And with time passing, we know these two will have challenges to install after the current residences have been established and their own personal investments have been done in their own landscaping. And then he underlines the next section here, all above is for Phase A, similar concerns will be of Phase B. The next bullet says, Phase B, it may be prudent to focus more on the bonding to make sure it is adequate with current market conditions. The next bullet, also for Phase B, the binder in the roadway during the construction phase. Better timeline should be considered to avoid the current conditions that are currently in Phase 1. I hope I was able to articulate my concerns. Feel free to contact me with any questions or further discussions. Signed, Thomas Ferry, Highway Superintendent, Town of Dayton. And before we just go on, that was the only formal correspondence we had from the town, right? Just for the point of order, I'm just going to first turn it over to Jim, and we have
Absolutely.
Nancy here's where, I mean, whether you if you don't want to discuss anything, that's fine. I just do want
No,
them
I agree, they're here.
to have their concerns be read into the record. Whoever wants to go first, or Jim, if you have anything, or Nancy, either way.
Nancy Goulart, Clerk, Board of Assessors. Good to see you all in person again. I happened to be channel surfing when I saw you.
Absolutely.
I left home when I heard the discussion about taxes and about errors made at the town level. I've been on the Board of Assessors for over a year now. None of this is familiar to me. I have no idea what these tax problems are. Obviously, I will be sending an email to our full-time assessor and ask her to look into it. I think this is going to take some time to research because the longtime assessor was not reelected, but she is available to us to give us information. And also, as we all know, the treasurer and tax collector retired, but she is available also. So I'm asking for some time for the assessor's office to do the historical research with former employees so that all the current employees can get up to speed and we can determine what taxes were paid, what taxes are due, what parcels, how this is being identified, and so that we have information that is factual and can actually advise you relative to any tax issues. So that's what I'm here to ask for tonight. Thank you.
For the record, I completely agree. Just,
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Sure.
we're committed to sitting down, and I said that earlier, with whoever you think is the best thing to do, to at least give our point of view as to what we think happened, and then you can do your research.
who have you spoken to at the office?
I'm sorry?
Who have you or your team spoken to at the office?
I haven't spoken to anyone, but there's been emails going back and forth with Rebecca about what happened when, and that's where all the confusion. So I understand why you wouldn't know about it, but, so we need to resolve it, and the best way to do it, I think we know what happened, and we could sit down and tell from our point of view, we think this is what happened. Let the board research it and come up with a solution.
But you're on for the next meeting, correct? Which is what date, we haven't picked a meeting date for it yet?
Nothing.
All right,
Yeah,
so there-
that's
We
why.
don't have a problem giving time and
That's-
whatever's necessary.
What do you think you might need, Nancy?
Well, first of all, I think you all know this, but I'll state it publicly. The Board of Assessors will not undertake an investigation without involving all parties.
Of course.
I just mentioned to you that we have available resources, even though two longtime key town employees have retired. I will send that email tomorrow. We have a meeting on Wednesday of next week. We aren't going to have answers for you, but I want to get this on the agenda.
Okay.
So, because we have a new board member also. And because of the open meeting law, obviously I haven't called the chairman to show that, even to mention I'm coming here tonight. But I just wanted to get our oars in the water. I heard what Greg said about taxes and concerns. So it'll be on the agenda for this coming Wednesday. As far as this has come up, this project has been presented before you. After that, and I can get the okay from the rest of the board to move ahead with this, we'll have the new full-time assessor get into this with Mrs. Beauregard, the former assessor, and Mrs. Hathaway, the treasurer collector, retired. Once we get all that, we will let Mrs. Easterday know, this is where we are with this. You can tell the board this, and we'll have some dates to be able to give you information. But
Meanwhile, these people are gonna be working with you on it
we
as
will,
well?
yes.
I was gonna suggest maybe we attend the Wednesday meeting.
It's 9
Wednesday
o'clock
day, right?
Wednesday morning in this building.
That's fine.
Okay.
We can do that if you want us there.
And I will put that in the email. Do you have a card or something?
Sure, I'll give you one.
All right. So this will be an agenda item for us, but in the meantime, I will send that one out tonight, so she gets it tomorrow. And after we have that meeting, we'll be able to give you more information. I don't expect to hear from Mrs. Beauregard or Mrs. Hathaway by Wednesday, but I just want you to know, in listening to this, what I had in mind so that we can get it resolved. And
Okay.
then hopefully say to you, here's the story on the taxes, this is paid, this is owed, whatever it is, so you have the full advice of what's happening with taxes.
I'm glad you were home and watching.
Thank you.
That's
Okay,
gonna,
thank you. No,
Nine.
Nine.
no. Well, 9 o'clock.
9 a.m.
Next Wednesday.
9 a.m.
Yes, 9 a.m. in this building.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jim, all yours. How are you?
Well, Jim?
I too echo the fact that Zoom is over. I could not stand it, so.
I'm with you.
That said, my comments are deep, detailed, and exhaustive, and I will hold those as this process moves forward, and I will be attending every meeting from here on out.
Excellent.
However, I do want to raise the following concern that I have. Just like the binder, as mentioned in Mr. Ferry's letter, the road with this developer has been extremely rocky, and I'm the first line of defense in making sure that the comprehensive permit conditions are met. So I have some concerns about having all these players under one comprehensive permit with 2 parcels of property. And I'm sure Attorney Mitchell and this board will take that into consideration. We still have open permits in Phase 1, Parcel A, that still have not been finished. Obviously, you've heard other concerns, and now we'll have a new set of players for Phase B. I'm not saying that won't be a better relationship, but all I'm saying is having all that under one comprehensive umbrella is concerning to me. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Just so that the board knows, there are in Phase A, I think there are 8 lots to be built, of which 3 are under construction, and the 4th was an affordable, which I think a permit has been issued.
It's on my desk.
Okay, it's about to be issued for the 4th house. So and then there are, I believe, 4 additional lots to be built on, of which one of those is also an affordable. And we will be having to run a separate lottery for the 2 remaining affordable units. We can't use the old list that's, many years old. So we'll be running a new lottery for the 2 remaining units on parcel A. And when we get to parcel B, that'll be a separate lottery, obviously.
Before I turn it over to the board, Marguerite, do you just want to, if you have any comments to what Jim, he mentioned about the issues he feels that could be under one permit, he mentioned, do you have any thoughts to that, or?
I mean, I'll certainly talk to Jim and find out what his thinking is.
Okay.
I think, from a procedural standpoint, as much as that would be preferred, I'm not sure it's feasible to do legally because the whole development isn't finished and it's all issued under the one permit, which is now being modified. So, but we can talk more about that
Yeah,
and
the
see
concern
how we
is-
can set it up to know who's
Should be separate
responsible.
owners, Who's responsible for
Yep,
what.
no,
Because in Mr. Cousins' opening statement, I heard him say
Right.
the word divorced
Yep.
from the first phase.
And that's why I said there really needs to be the town needs to feel comfortable that not only has Phase A been completed, but also brought to whatever final approval is, almost like what you were doing earlier tonight with Stony Ridge.
Right.
There's an approval process that doesn't just involve town approval, but it also involves financial approval review, and that's the piece where we may need some further guidance from the state. Or else it's not gonna be feasible to separate the liability, and that's, that's something I'm certainly willing to work and take in strong consideration what Jim's concerns are, but also work with the developer to see how this can be done. I think there could be ways that it could be done, but we'll just need to be very mindful of it.
So I'm going to start with Susan, and then and then John, and then work the way down for any comments. So Susan, do you have anything?
Well, as far as the phases being included in one or separate the way you had mentioned, and that obviously is to be decided at a later date after the parties mentioned. The one question I did have, though, is out of those 19 lots, you had mentioned number 7 is not in those 19 lots, but unless I misunderstood you. And but you also mentioned
did say
number
that.
8.
Right.
So it's the
So
2 that are not.
No,
Okay.
it's confusing.
I also think that's something that when the assessors, the board of assessors does the research, hopefully that'll be clarified.
But,
Right. Right. But I just was
But
wondering
that's
if it was
separate
one
from the
or 2.
research. When you look at the assessor's map, you've got 19 lots here. Then you have a big parcel further north of 11 acres. And then you have, I guess, southwest of those 19 lots, another big parcel. That's the question as to how much acreage is in that parcel, whether it's 35 or 25, whatever, we'll have to
Okay.
do that research. So there are 19 lots that are gonna be built upon.
Right.
And these 2 other lots, which are mostly wetland, but are also taxed.
Right, which 88, you said, is the wetland one.
So,
7 and 8, and there's also a little bit of wetlands as part of the 19, but that's all been.
Okay.
so before we go any more discussion regarding that, Carrie, just as a point of information, can we just make sure that we have those plans in front of us for the next meeting? I'm sure, you know, with Nancy's discussion, we'll get that ironed out, but for me, in the public,
Are you,
just describing it roughly where things are legally is not good to do rough, you know, we need to see it to really understand what's going on with that.
I have reduced site plans, but that shows which I could give to you tonight, that shows the 19 lots. But I don't think there's a plan.
If you have it and want to submit it to the record, that's fine. Or is that something that you feel like is helpful?
Well, I think
let
that
me-
the approved signed plans that they,
Well, it's not being submitted for us to rule on. I just, for our information, just to see it. It's not being submitted as a formal plan.
Short and
The
copy.
record so we can see it,
Be
that's all.
helpful.
That's all.
But
Yeah,
I
it's
think
not
it's like the cover page of the answer. I don't think I have
So while he's getting that, John, if you want to go ahead with your questions.
Oh, sure. This,
Oh, you got it, okay.
yeah.
Obviously, John is visually impaired, but.
got extra copies that I can share with everyone. But these are the 19 lots. But there's also a parcel of land over here. And a parcel of land over here.
It's in your comprehensive permit.
We can discuss that in detail later. I don't want any more.
I actually don't even want to talk about that.
And I also,
I'm gonna leave it
and it's not fair for John to,
That's okay, don't worry.
So I can
Describe later.
I can see if we can make a copy of the assessor's plan that shows this a little clearer, you know, with all of the lots, including these.
Yeah.
I'll get a copy.
Okay.
I'll get a copy of that.
Okay.
I mean, you're more than welcome to keep this as.
okay.
Okay.
Thank
All
you,
right.
thank you.
So John, go ahead.
So Marguerite, my questions are gonna be, I have several questions going forward, which I'm gonna direct to you, and potentially through you to Mr. Cousins.
Okay.
And the questions I really have concern past, present, future, which is, for example, the comprehensive permit. So I'll start with the original comprehensive permit, which includes the entire lot process, and I assume A and B.
Correct.
So if this is modification now to B going to new owners, how does that affect the original agreement of the comprehensive permit? And does that make a difference? How does that affect whatever bonds were posted or bonds that are still there versus release? How does that also affect any past design with regard to the comprehensive permit and whether or not some of that needs to be renegotiated and re-reviewed? And also, how does that affect any potential new permitting through the town for different parcels or parts of the project? For example, this is a new ownership, but now we also have the water ban and so forth, potentially, for the water moratorium. So I'm putting those out there. I have more questions, but it all relates to this part of the process and how far along we are in it, or how much of a step back. So even in the original process for purchase and sale for the 40B units, there was an original pricing agreed. Is the new developer still in agreement with those figures and so forth, or is the new developer going to be asking for substantive changes in design of the units or pricing of the units? So I'm going through you for that first, and that may need to go to Paul as well.
Sure. So what I can say is the modification request that's before the board involves both the concept of approving new developers for Phase B, as well as the only changes that they're, really substantive changes that they're looking to make to the comprehensive permit for the development of Phase B is putting in new house styles, which they've submitted into the record for you to review.
Yep.
And approving that those house styles have 3 bedrooms rather than 2, which is currently required. to the extent that they haven't asked for any modifications to the actual conditions of the comprehensive permit, those would stay. There is no request to change the number of affordable units in Phase B. There's no request to redesign the lots in Phase B. There's no request to change what the infrastructure requirements are for Phase B. And obviously, at the point in time that they're going to start building that infrastructure, bonding would need to be put in place. So, at this time, the town is not holding a bond on this property. The bond process that was followed when the infrastructure for it was really Phase 1 and 2 at the time. There was a modification that made 1 and 2 combined to be A, was many, many years ago. And it was not, there was nothing held back at the time. The decision is almost 20 years old, I believe. It's at least 18 years old.
19, I think.
Yeah. So, you know, I think the town has definitely changed some of its practices with regards to permitting comprehensive permits since that time. But at the time, there was no requirement for any bonding to have any sort of retention that would get approved at the completion of the project. That is something you can take into consideration for Phase B going forward, and I think they're expecting you to. But this is considered a modification to the original comprehensive permit, as that has already been modified. It's been modified twice, substantively, 2009, and then again in 2012, I think, if I've got my dates right. And so it's a modification to what that document looks like. This is considered, if the moratorium applies, and I'm not sure if it does, if there's town water in this or not.
It would not apply?
Yeah, it wouldn't apply, but
Because those lots were all created prior to the
Right.
moratorium.
exactly. So there is town water, that was really my question, sorry, I said that wrong. So yeah, so those types of things, are still, this is considered a pre-existing approved project. Now, as part of the modification process, if there's any changes to town procedure that have arisen that a town board wishes to submit to the zoning board for them to consider as they move forward in Phase B, they certainly have the ability to do that. I mean, that's been opened up, you know, now by the applicant coming in with a modification request. That doesn't mean the comprehensive permit law still applies. This board is the permitting entity. You're the entity that makes modifications to that comprehensive permit under Chapter 40B. So nothing about that changes, but you have the ability to seek input and to receive input from other town boards and committees. And knowing how old this property is, and even the creation of Phase B is many years old, as it's currently designed is many years old. I don't remember, you have the plan in front of you, I don't know the date of that plan.
3/17/10.
2010, yeah, so that's when the last configuration of this was.
That was a change from the 88 to the non-age restricted and all that.
Exactly, and creation of Phase A and B, and so all of that, you know, the substance of that is not changing, and that was one of my original questions when I had first heard from Paul about this. But really, it's more of, a few pieces around the house styles, which they can get into with you, I would assume at a future meeting. A few pieces around, the number of bedrooms, and then the concept of having a separate entity responsible for Phase A and Phase B, which is going to result in you needing to discuss what to do about Phase A. And that may involve some bonding too. I mean, this board may decide that one of the ways to ensure a guarantee that Phase A is taken care of properly is that a bond is put up. And that's going to be a condition you might impose. And that's all on the table through the requests that are before you. But they are not looking to redesign the infrastructure or the lots as they're laid out, or change the number of affordable units, or change the concept of this being market rate for sale, single-family homes.
Despite the
And
fact-
affordable for sale, single-family.
Despite the fact that they want to add more bedrooms.
Just the increase to the bedrooms through the change in design.
Okay.
And I think I've hit all of the general.
There was a question which I didn't quite understand about pricing.
Yes, the question, well, part of the question for the pricing goes to what would have been my next question, but for example, I'm assuming in the original agreement, there were pricing
Pricing of,
limitations. There was, you know, the affordable units will be offered at X amount of dollars.
yeah, no, the pricing is going to be whatever the rules and regulations are with mass housing and that is anyone who is at 80% of median income, just like we did at Stony Ridge and anybody who's at 80% at the time the lottery is held, there's a determination made that 80% of one cannot have income of greater than 80% of the median income. And they cannot spend any more than 30% of their income for housing. That assumes principal, interest, insurance, HOA fees, any fees associated with the home except for utilities. And then there's a 10% window, and you take into the interest rate and you mix them all together, and you come up with sales price. That's all based on the regulations. The pricing on the market, on the units that are market, what we would refer to as market rate, will be whatever the market is at that time.
Greg, I know you weren't looking to have any substantial discussion, but do you have any questions regarding information or clarification on anything?
Well, like Marguerite stated, so I got a question, a couple of things I really didn't want to bring up today, but is this going to fall under stormwater with the new board we have now, with the design of the plan that we do have stormwater since 2010, it's a board that we do have.
The plan was approved and at the time, so I think that, and the plans have been signed off and approved, and we're proposing, if we were proposing, Greg, if we were proposing some changes, then I think that stormwater.
We're not changing the infrastructure, I get it.
No, the road is exactly the same.
These are gonna be my concerns, Paul. One, who's taking responsibility for Phase A's roads? Okay?
Richard Federoff,
Okay, well, we need Mr. Federoff here,
he will be.
okay?
He had a family.
And Phase Two,
Okay.
why Phase Two is being done, or B, whatever you like to call it, who's putting the bond on Mr. Federoff's roads while you're utilizing his road to access that project with equipment? That's gonna be another thing I'm gonna be looking for.
I'm not sure of that answer. Okay.
And the water moratorium, I heard something about that doesn't apply to this because of what it's already approved, but if it becomes a public safety issue when we don't have adequate water pressure, now it's still gonna be a problem, and we have that going on now.
Well, I think it's prudent for me to tell you that the water moratorium is gonna expire.
Thank
and the
God.
water department's renegotiating.
All right, because I'm so sick of this thing.
It is not gonna be the same as the old one.
All right,
So I say the water's available currently. By the time this gets permitted, I don't know.
those are the things, Paul, I just wanna make sure we're all
understand.
on the same page.
I understand.
Because I hate to see you go through all this.
Well,
and then
my
can't get the
my
permit.
guess would be the access to Phase A is really sort of off of Center Street.
We would not be going through the old subdivision. We'll try to make it so we can go into the new parcel B, stay away from A altogether.
So how are you gonna get into parcel B?
We'd have to have kind of access in,
From where?
where our access is.
But it's
That's
off,
the
but
thing.
it's off of their, it's off of his road.
But we'd have to get our roads and somehow keep
I'm not sure if it's
Gentlemen,
landlocked,
that's
it
a
might not be,
conversation for
there
another-
might be might be an easement on Center,
Yeah, see this?
but I'm not sure.
See, this, right here, his parcel, so to get.
He's just showing the,
To get the parcel B
Showing him.
would be right here.
Yeah,
So how do you get
so
there?
where's our front? Where's our 138 is there?
138's over here.
Yeah, you're on Center.
he's just showing.
This is Center Street.
I just don't want to-
So the only way to get into this
And
parcel
that's
is-
the only part of that whole development that I think looks decent. Okay, that's what I'm nervous.
I just don't,
There's a wall, there's a wall right up here.
just for the record, he's just showing the, developer.
The 19th? That's over here.
That's someone's homes.
There's nothing, so there's no access off of Center Street. So you have, so the thing to do with Richard is to work something out. so that-
Protect
With
us.
this,
So that
with this
this-
front piece, right?
That's the one
I
way.
thought you were saying we're going through here. We
No,
don't
no,
think
no.
about that. We just want everything access.
That's the one way in.
So as long as we can make sure that Mr. Federoff can't throw that back on the
Yep.
applicant.
So we're only down.
So you'd be coming this way.
Yeah.
So whatever he's doing for final coating, that should not be done until you're basically done.
Right.
Maybe we thought about going for this one.
Well, that's another way of doing it.
That's what I was getting at.
Just as possible.
Were those your only,
At
I
this
know,
time.
okay. David, at least I know you're relatively new, this has been a lot. So absorb, do you have any questions or any kind of, again, trying to avoid a lot of discussion.
But I'm not gonna say anything.
You wanna hold off? I mean, if there are questions more for clarification or information, feel free. We just wanna hold off if we can on any kind of substantive discussion for now until we have more information. But if you have any kind of questions or you want addressed.
I'll hold my questions to my vest at this
Okay,
moment.
sure, no problem. Elise, do you have anything?
No.
Okay.
All right, is there anything left, Marguerite or Carrie, is there anything that you, before we, because, yes. Sure.
Nancy Goulart, Chairman of the Stormwater Committee. Based on what Attorney Mitchell said and what our involvement has been in the past with 40Bs, and since this project has never been reviewed by the Stormwater Committee from day one, because we didn't exist when they were day one,
Okay.
I will bring this to the Stormwater Committee at the next meeting, which is in about 3 weeks. And we will be taking a look at it and give you written comments, as we did with Strawberry Fields. We
Yep.
understand what our role is, but as Attorney Mitchell said, you can solicit information.
Yeah, of course.
And so we will put down our concerns on paper so that you are aware of it and it's a public document.
Especially when Greg had that question
Well, I
and we
just don't
didn't
want
exist
it,
before.
I don't want it not to be, I'm not saying that this might be fine, but at the same note, it's best if we have a board that's available now. 'cause
They should have the chance
obviously
to.
It's
They didn't.
2010.
Yes.
And we are coming in for a new plan, so,
Right.
even though the infrastructure's not being,
And based on the latest correspondence that came in relative to the Strawberry Fields project, where they're looking for comments, I think is it MIPA?
Well, I mean, I just don't want to just,
The state has reviewed it, but they're looking for comments relative from the town.
Yep.
So what we are going to submit on behalf of the Stormwater Committee are those letters that we sent to you that explained all of the concerns we had that were read into the record and that we discussed with the developer, even though, per se, as they told us, you don't have a say in this. We met with you as a courtesy, but we all understood that the findings and recommendations of the Stormwater Committee needed to be on record. So I just want you to know, thinking about the kind of information we will gather and give to you, it's good to have this on file in case down the road there are questions about anything.
okay,
Thank you.
okay.
Assume Strawberry Fields was peer reviewed, correct?
Well, that's not really up for discussion.
Yeah, I don't think
Okay.
that's on the agenda.
I think she would just, the procedure she wants to follow is to avoid.
Yeah, but that's in the new subdivision where you're going,
no, this is exactly what, I just wanted to make sure when Marguerite mentioned boards in town, that is a new board that obviously, when this was done, wasn't available at
Right.
the time. Not saying that this is gonna have a problem.
But it should
But
give, it
I'd
should give
like
it the
to
same
have
treatment
her
that the rest do.
Recommendations
Yes.
read to the record.
Yes. Margaret, do you have anything else before we, because right now we will need a motion to continue. But before we do that, is there anything else you want to include? Or
No,
that-
at this time, no, I think that we can address as information comes in.
All right, Greg, you have one more thing?
I just wanna make sure, Paul, you're gonna attend the meeting, for the agenda for the assessor's office on 9 o'clock on
I
next
may
Wednesday.
not, but,
Someone will be
yeah,
there.
or maybe a couple of people, but.
When we
yeah.
come to the next meeting after that,
And I'll
Mr.
put that plan,
Cousins,
yep.
you, as well as Mr. Federoff, and they're gonna be
We'll,
here on
we'll,
that one.
we'll have, hopefully be able to figure it out and come up with some type of schedule.
It's
if-
more
if-
about
if-
the road that I wanna know about.
I understand.
And then Jim has some concerns too that might be able to answer, and now, obviously Nancy
And,
is
yeah,
definitely
Nancy,
working
I
on
don't
it.
know when you came in. Did you get the date for our next meeting?
No, that was probably somewhere between home and here.
That's what I figured. That's what I figured. That's why I wanted to make sure you were
Just to
aware of
make
it.
sure it goes
I mean,
smoothly,
obviously,
I just
if you
wanna make
were gonna submit something in writing, that's obviously fine too, but just if you wanted to attend, I just wanted you to know.
What is your next meeting?
It's gonna be the 22nd.
Okay, and our meeting is the 15th.
Okay.
Stormwater Committee, that is.
Might have some answers.
Board of Assessors will be, the 8th. So that'll be our initial review. And
Okay.
obviously, both of these reviews will take some time, but we will definitely get back to, you through Mrs. Eastday to
Oh,
let you
yeah.
know what's happening.
We don't, I mean, we're not looking for anything specific by the 22nd.
I'm just trying to
But if
make
you have
sure
some
it's
things
all
and you
going
want to
on.
share it, please do, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
And
All right.
Richard Federoff has also indicated to me that he was hoping to get together with Mr. Ferry soon to begin to come up with a list that they both can agree to,
Okay.
take into consideration
Got a lot of
concern.
paper, right?
All right, so that being said, we do need a motion to continue, this agenda item to our next meeting, so is there a motion? To continue, the modification of comprehensive permit Stonegate Landing LLC to our June 22nd meeting.
I don't know if that's enough time.
You wanna make it to the next month?
Well, when you're meeting, well, we'll get to July 4th.
July 13th.
I think by that time, we'll be able to resolve the taxes. That shouldn't be,
Our next meeting after that, Paul, is gonna be July 13th.
July 13th.
So you'd rather us to continue this specific, item to the July meeting and not discuss it on the 22nd? Is that what you're asking?
no, let's have it for that date.
Okay.
And you're still gonna take care of all the tax stuff with Nancy and all that when the.
Hopefully by that, we'll have that all
Even
squared
if we
away.
don't have everything,
At least we know
we
you're in
can,
the process of it.
I'd rather continue it and not need to talk about it than wish we did have it open, you know what I mean?
I would say June 20,
Yeah,
22,
22?
Yeah,
yes. And that'll be a prime time, by the way.
Right back here, right behind us.
Nancy, for you too, that's gonna be a prime time.
Where?
so
Over
this is
right
the,
behind
this
us.
is, for the record, this is the old town hall. That building right there is called Prime Time, that's where, boards sometimes have to.
Prime time?
Isn't, yeah, it's.
It's a senior center.
Prime?
It was a kindergarten, that's where I went to kindergarten.
So, excuse me, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
can I just have their names and their affiliation for the record
Sure.
before we do anything more?
And your email address as well.
I'm Andrew Maurice, and my son Andrew Maurice, and Jay Bollins, and we're the proposed, with one of the guy, Matt Gacy, we proposed to take over the project and finish it in a proper amount of time and make it look good.
So you'll be developing it?
We'll be the developers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the development entity is Able Landing. They're two of the members of that LLC.
Okay.
Matt Daisy is the managing member of that LLC.
Okay, okay,
But they're all together.
okay. That's fine, we just need to know what exactly the relation was,
Sure.
so just so we know, okay.
Okay.
Oh, I thought she had, Jay Bollins?
Jay.
Would it be? Yep.
Do you need their contact information, or just their names for the record?
I think just their names, right? Their names
I mean,
and
do you-
from Able
Yeah,
LLC.
no,
I can
because
send it
Paul's
to,
their
I
representative.
can send it to you, Karen.
Thank you.
I think was that submitted with your application, Paul?
This is Able.
Well, it was in the email that I had sent to you. I don't think it
know,
was
but-
actually in the application itself.
Okay. If it wasn't in the application, it probably needs to.
Well, it was just the email,
So
not the email,
that
but
and a copy.
project
of the-
notice change.
Okay, a copy of the LLC paper, like, documentation will need to be submitted too at some point.
Get that too.
It's just
So, I mean, if you just have like a
modification of comprehensive permit.
Secretary of State
Yeah, sure.
paperwork that you wanna submit, that should be sufficient.
Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna make a motion that we continue the conversation for the discussion of the comprehensive permit.
Is there a second?
Chairman Greg Logan, I'll second that.
Any discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Alrighty, so, moving along, we will, also guys, thank you guys.
You guys,
We'll go down to public input. Carrie, do we have anything unrelated to these matters that would come up, nothing?
I don't have anything.
Any members of the public here wish to speak tonight?
Before Maris, I just want to apologize for, the banner I put up. I put planning board first because Carrie confused me. So for half of this meeting, there's going to be a banner that pops up when you rewatch this on the YouTube or, Channel 9 that will say planning board first, and then I realized I changed it to.
So Angela Point leaves and you guys fall apart, is pretty much what you're telling me, right? I see what happens.
Just wanted to clarify.
Next time I see no work, I'll have to talk to him about that. Jim or Nancy, you guys have anything else?
I recognize you guys. I'm surprised.
Thank you. She didn't need the planning board. She knew who we were. Any board members have anything they want to bring up? I do have one thing, but something minor. But if you guys have anything, so now that we are in person again, this was something that was hard for us to maintain during Zoom, but I want to make sure that we are following the proper rules of etiquette for the meetings in terms of making motions, interrupting speakers, asking questions of the applicant versus each other. So I have a copy of this. Did you give everyone a copy of this today? Okay. So we have the ZBA meeting checklist. Who wrote this? Was this before? Probably
Been
even.
around for a long time.
I mean, this specific one would have to be updated because it goes in the basically open. It's more for myself, but also for the board members to know too. Like, first the applicant presents, then the zoning enforcer would then go. Then we would ask the members of the board if they have questions. We'll go through this more in detail when we open up the next meeting. I just wanted everyone to be aware of that. On the back of that paper is a summary, I guess you can say, of some of the key Robert's Rules of Order in terms of what to say to make certain motions, what can be interrupted, what can you interrupt the speaker for, what needs a second, all that kind of, what has a majority, what needs a unanimous vote. So that's on the back of that. I also had Kerry look into ordering the actual hard copy 800-page book of Robert Rules of Order. Not that I expect everyone to
I
read
have
that.
book.
The new one
Yeah, the green one.
for 2020, the updated one.
Well, I got it last year.
Oh, okay. So either way, we barely use our budget, and I had to just get that. She ordered a laminated copy of a summary of Robert's Rules of Orders and another abridged version, right?
Clip note.
Cost us a grand total of $30, just so everyone's aware of that. So when we have all that, we'll look it over, and before we'll open the next meeting, but then we'll go into, just so everyone's aware of, it's one thing that it's very hard, I'm 100% guilty of it myself, but over Zoom it's kind of hard to follow those procedures with people having connection, not knowing who's speaking, and we have two new members, obviously, who, whether they have experience on the town boards or not, some boards may not strictly apply to Robert Rules of Order, some probably, including ourselves, are casual with some of them, but we need to make sure that we are doing the best we can to follow everything. I assume no objections for that, right? Do you guys we're both aware of Robert's Rules of Order and what exactly that is? Okay. Susan, I assume you are too, and John, I know you and Greg both are. Like I said, it's not pointed towards anyone specifically. It's more so having new members just so they're aware too of what the flow of the meeting, how the meeting goes, and in terms of what order people get to speak and stuff like that.
I think when your father was on, he laminated them.
Yeah,
And had them on the table.
I think when Roz
Yeah, Roz
subbed
did.
in when we were in between Nicole and Jonathan.
John, yeah.
Roz subbed, and she's the one that brought it up to me, and I hadn't seen it since.
Right.
I don't know if I ever saw it. I think it was something that my
was
dad
nice
had
to
when he
have
was
on
chair.
there, 'cause if
He
you
had it
had
all. He had it all memorized, so we never had it in front of us. And I was like, "Oh, this
Definitely put you straight.
Yes, yes, he did." He's now my boss, kind of, which is kind of weird at home and him.
God bless you.
Yeah, the copy I have is laminated, but and we can obviously have ours laminated too. But like for example, the limited one I had said, "Explain we are meeting at the lower level of town hall."
Yeah.
We're not meeting in the library, so we, obviously stuff like that will need to be changed. The reason why I asked who wrote this was I just want to make sure that it's still relevant. I know things change, but.
It's been around a while.
Just out of curiosity, Nancy, from your experience, are Robert Rules of Order something that's strictly followed by boards, generally speaking, or not so much, or?
Yes, the boards and committees do follow it. And technically, if Mr. McKeon were here, you get the motion in the second, and then you go into discussion. But what most boards and committees do is go to the agenda item, review, discuss, act, and say what it is, and it's introduced and discussed, and eventually there's a motion and a second, and then there's more discussion if in fact there needs to be. But yes, that's pretty much what we do, just the way you're operating tonight.
Right, and obviously I'm not saying we haven't been following, we haven't, but there's some more specifics as to like, when can you interrupt the applicant, when can you interrupt the chairman, when can you interrupt each other. There are certain things, believe it or not, that you can't interrupt for, and there's certain things you can. So it's stuff like that that I want to make sure that we all are aware of, just to make sure the flow of the meeting is going the right way. And I mean, usually if we are not making a motion on something that we should be, especially when Marguerite's here, she always lets us know before we make a motion like that. And some things we don't frequently do, so we don't even know that we even need a motion for that. But we'll have another official laminated copy with more details on it at every meeting, so we can always have that to reference. And so, Carrie, if you want to buy one for yourself too, I know like I'll have one, but it's sometimes easier for you to follow along and be able to say, by the way, you're going to be discussing something in a few minutes, we're going to need a motion on that. If we're listening to the applicant, we're not going to be able to be listening what they're saying and trying to look at it in front of us while we're making sure we're good on everything. All right, so what's that? $36, great, okay.
Make a copy, will you?
Well, that's the thing, 'cause when I asked her today, I think one of the websites you can get a PDF version and we can just all have a copy, but either way, the one that we get, we can photocopy at Town Hall, so we can each have one too, so. All right, is there any correspondence that we have for tonight? Alrighty, the next thing will be to the approval of the meeting minutes for April 27th, 2022.
So, Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So we have just changed some of the meeting minutes. Well, we're approving just the minutes, we've changed Mr. Barraby's, so we can approve it even though we pulled back and changed Mr. Barraby's?
It's just approving literally the words that were spoken that night. It's not saying that whether the findings after were relevant or not. It's what was said accurate that meeting.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm Greg Logan. I make a motion that we approve the minutes from the meeting of April 27, 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Anything else tonight? You guys got anything? Any questions or?
Good to be back.
No, it's nice to be in person.
Yeah, for sure. All right. That being said, is there a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Cable.